My son looked me dead in the eye and said, "Meet Grizzly Bear, Dad." Then he walked away, left me standing there in Yellowstone's Lamar Valley with nothing but my REI backpack and the sound of his boots, crunching through September pine needles, getting fainter and fainter. I didn't panic, didn't call out, didn't beg. I just smiled. Before we continue, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what you'd do in my situation. See, Marcus thought he was leading me to slaughter, thought his old man was just another helpless victim who'd hand over a $2.3 million construction business without a fight. But here's what my entitled son didn't know as he disappeared into those Wyoming woods. I'd been planning this moment for exactly 3 months. Every detail, every contingency. The camping trip was his idea. The location was his choice. Even the timing worked perfectly with his schedule. But the outcome? That was going to be all mine. Let me back up 6 months. That's when the money requests started getting aggressive. "Dad, I need $8,000 for Emma's medical bills." That was March 15th. I transferred it same day, no questions asked. Good fathers help their children, right? March 22nd. Another $6,000. The specialist wants more tests. April 3rd. $4,000 for the car repair. You know I can't miss work. By July, my accountant David Kim was asking uncomfortable questions. "Bob, you've transferred $42,000 to Marcus in 4 months. That's more than most people make in a year." I pulled up my Wells Fargo business account on my laptop. The numbers told a story I didn't want to read. $8,200 average per month. For 18 straight months. $427,000 total. Not once had Marcus said thank you. Not once had he asked about my health, my business, or how I was handling life alone since his mother died. But he sure knew my net worth down to the penny. "Dad, we should go camping." That's what he said when he called Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. Father-son bonding time, like when I was a kid. Except when he was a kid, Marcus hated camping. Complained about bugs, sleeping bags, lack of Wi-Fi. Now suddenly he wanted wilderness time with his old man? "Yellowstone," he continued. "Lamar Valley. I've already booked the campsite for this weekend." This weekend? I was looking at my calendar. 3 major contractor meetings, a city planning review. "Marcus, I've got—" "Dad," his voice got that edge, the same tone he used when demanding money. "When's the last time we spent quality time together? Just us?" The guilt trip. Classic Marcus. "Emma thinks it's a great idea too," he added. "She says you need to get out more. Stop being such a hermit." Emma. My daughter-in-law, who'd never worked a day in her life, but somehow needed constant medical procedures. Emma, who drove a brand-new BMW X5 while complaining about money. Emma, who posted Instagram photos from Cabo last month while claiming they couldn't afford rent. "Fine," I said. "When do we leave?" 3:15 a.m. Thursday. I want to hit the road early, beat traffic. 3:15 in the morning. Who leaves for a camping trip at 3:15 a.m.? But I agreed. Because despite everything, despite the money and the manipulation and the complete lack of gratitude, Marcus was still my son. Still the little boy who used to help me measure lumber and hold my flashlight while I fixed broken pipes. That Tuesday night, I started packing. My North Face Wawona sleeping bag, Coleman Triton camp stove, Yeti Tundra cooler with enough food for 4 days. Then I packed the other stuff. My iPhone 14 in its waterproof OtterBox case, fully charged solar power bank, the tiny digital recorder I'd bought on Amazon for $89, and my father's old Swiss Army knife, the one engraved with 1987 for Bob, who builds things that last. I also printed out 18 months of bank statements. Every transfer, every request, every lie about what the money was really for. Because Tuesday night at 11:47 p.m., I heard something that changed everything. Marcus was in the kitchen talking to Emma on speakerphone. I'd come downstairs for water and heard voices through the thin walls of my Denver ranch house. "Is he still planning to come?" Emma's voice, crystal clear through the phone speaker. "Yeah, old man's actually excited about it. Keeps talking about father-son bonding." Marcus laughed. Not a happy laugh, something colder. "And you're sure about the location?" "Lamar Valley's perfect. Remote. Lots of wildlife activity. Rangers don't patrol that section much, especially early morning." My blood went cold. What if he fights back? Emma again. "Come on. He's 62. weighs 160, soaking wet, and hasn't done anything physical since Mom died. Plus, I'll make sure he's tired from the hike. And the business? Automatically goes to me as sole heir. 2.3 million plus the house, plus his retirement accounts. We'll be set for life. What about the life insurance? 180,000? Not huge, but every bit helps. I stood in that hallway for exactly 12 minutes, listening to my son and his wife plan my murder like they were discussing dinner reservations. When they finished, I walked back upstairs, sat on my bed, stared at the ceiling. Then I made 3 phone calls. First, to David Kim. I need an emergency will revision. Tonight. Second, to Wells Fargo Business Banking. I need to place security holds on all external transfers from my accounts. Third, to my old construction buddy Pete Martinez, the one whose daughter Sarah became a park ranger. Pete, I need a favor, and I need it to look like a coincidence. By Wednesday morning, Marcus Chen was no longer my heir. By Wednesday noon, he couldn't access my money. By Wednesday evening, I had a very different kind of camping trip planned. But Marcus didn't know any of that when he picked me up at 3:15 a.m. Thursday morning, grinning like Christmas morning. Ready for an adventure, Dad? More than you know, son. The drive to Yellowstone takes 6 hours from Denver. Marcus talked the entire time. Not about us, not about memories, about money. You know, Dad, you should really think about downsizing. That 4-bedroom house is way too big for one person. You could get maybe $700,000 for it. Invest that money properly. Mile marker 127 on I-80. I noted it in my mental log. And the business. Have you thought about what happens when you can't work anymore? Construction's a young man's game. Maybe it's time to pass the torch. Mile marker 194. Still talking about my assets like I was already dead. We stopped for gas in Cheyenne. Marcus went to pay, came back looking confused. Weird. Card got declined. Must be some kind of bank error. I handed him 2 20s. Use cash. Thanks, Dad. I'll pay you back. No, he wouldn't. By the time we reached Yellowstone's east entrance, Marcus had mentioned my will 3 times, my life insurance twice, and suggested I was getting forgetful at least 6 times. We set up camp at Site 4A in Lamar Valley. Isolated spot. Exactly what someone would choose if they wanted privacy. Marcus pitched his REI base camp tent with practiced efficiency. Too practiced for someone who supposedly hated camping. While he worked, I activated the voice recorder app on my iPhone and slipped it into my shirt pocket. Dad, why don't you rest? You look tired. It was only 2 p.m. I'm fine, Marcus. Let me help with the campfire. No. Sit down, relax. You've been working too hard, the concerned son act. Establishing a narrative of frailty. That evening, we cooked hot dogs on my Coleman stove. Marcus kept refilling my coffee cup. Drink up, Dad. Stay hydrated at this altitude. I pretended to drink, actually poured most of it into the pine needles behind my chair. Around 9 p.m., Marcus's phone buzzed. Text message. Emma? I asked. Yeah, she's worried about us being out here alone. He stepped away to call her back. Thought he was out of earshot. My iPhone, still recording in my pocket, caught every word. We're here. Yeah, the site's perfect. No, there's nobody around for miles. Tomorrow morning, early, before sunrise. I told you it has to look natural. Wildlife attack, hiking accident, something like that. Emma's voice came through the speaker, tinny but clear. Did you check if he brought his will with him? Why would he bring his will camping? I don't know, just seems like something he'd do. You know how paranoid old people get. Trust me. After tomorrow, it won't matter what paperwork he has. Marcus laughed again. That same cold sound from Tuesday night. The old man actually thinks this is about bonding. Keeps talking about teaching me camp skills. It's pathetic. What if someone finds the body too quickly? They won't. Lamar Valley's huge. Bears are active this time of year. By the time rangers locate anything... He paused. I heard Emma say something I couldn't make out. Look, I've thought this through. He's old, out of shape, and trusting. This is our one shot at the life we deserve. Our life we deserve. Not his inheritance. Not our father's money. The life they deserved. Marcus continued. Besides, what's he going to do with $2 million? Buy more tools? Sit in that empty house counting money? We're young. We can actually use it. Just be careful. Make sure there are no witnesses. Who's going to witness anything at 5 a.m. in the middle of nowhere? That's when I heard the plan. All of it. Marcus would wake me before sunrise, suggest a sunrise hike to a scenic overlook he'd scouted earlier, lead me to a remote area near Soda Butte Creek, create a situation where I'd fall, hit my head, maybe end up in the water. Tragic accident. Elderly man loses footing on wet rocks. Happens all the time in national parks. Emma's voice. And if he doesn't fall? Long pause. Then I'll help him fall. I sat by that dying campfire for another hour after Marcus went to sleep, listening to him snore in his tent, planning my next moves. See, Marcus made one critical error. He assumed his old man was helpless, assumed I'd built a multi-million-dollar business by being weak and naive. He was wrong. At 11:30 p.m., I sent a text to Sarah Martinez. Camping at Lamar Valley Site 4A. Beautiful area. Might need that wellness check you mentioned around 6 a.m. tomorrow if you're in the area. At midnight, I uploaded the recorded conversation to my cloud storage. Timestamp September 15th, 11:47 p.m. to 12:23 a.m. At 12:30 a.m., I moved my tent, not far, just 30 yards closer to the main road, within sight of anyone who might drive by early morning. Marcus never noticed. Too busy dreaming about spending my money. But tomorrow morning was going to be very different from what he had planned, because while my son was plotting my murder, I was plotting something else entirely. Justice. 4:30 a.m. Marcus shook my sleeping bag. Dad, wake up. Perfect morning for that sunrise hike. I opened my eyes slowly, played the sleepy old man. What time is it? Early, but trust me, the sunrise from Specimen Ridge is incredible. Mom would have loved it. Using his dead mother to manipulate me into my own murder. That crossed a line I didn't know existed. Give me 10 minutes to get dressed. Sure, I'll make coffee. While Marcus fiddled with the camp stove, I made my final preparations. Switched on the GPS tracker on my phone. Activated the emergency beacon on my Garmin InReach Mini. Set both devices to ping my location every 60 seconds. I also did something Marcus didn't expect. I changed clothes. Instead of the lightweight hiking outfit I'd laid out the night before, I put on my heaviest work boots, the steel-toed Timberlands I'd worn on construction sites for 15 years. Added my tool belt with the Leatherman Wave multi-tool, measuring tape, and my father's Swiss Army knife. Dad, you getting dressed for work or for hiking? Habit, I said through the tent fabric. These boots have good traction. Truth was, I wanted to look like the man who'd built something from nothing. The man who'd survived 30 years in construction, who'd negotiated with city planners and dealt with problem contractors and never backed down from a fight. Because that's who Marcus was really trying to kill. Not some helpless old widower, the man who'd earned every dollar he was trying to steal. I emerged from my tent at 4:55 a.m. Marcus handed me a steaming coffee cup. Drink up. It's going to be a long hike. The coffee tasted wrong. Bitter in a way that had nothing to do with camp brewing. Tastes a little off, I said. Altitude affects everything. You'll get used to it. I pretended to take another sip, then poured the rest on the ground when he turned away. Whoops, clumsy. I'll make you another cup when we get back. If we get back, he meant. We started hiking at 5:15 a.m. Marcus led the way with his black diamond headlamp, cutting through pre-dawn darkness. He moved fast. Too fast for a casual sunrise walk. Slow down, son. These old legs aren't what they used to be. We need to reach the ridge before sunrise. Otherwise, we'll miss the best light. After 20 minutes, we left the main trail. Marcus turned onto a narrow game path that led towards Soda Butte Creek, exactly where he'd planned to stage my accident. This doesn't look like the way to Specimen Ridge, I said. Shortcut. Trust me. Trust. The word my son kept using while leading me to slaughter. We hiked another 15 minutes. The path got narrower, rockier, more isolated. That's when I made my decision. Marcus, he stopped, turned around. His headlamp beam hit my face. Yeah, Dad, I know what you're planning. For exactly 3 seconds, his expression didn't change. Then I watched his face transform. The fake concern melted away. What replaced it was something I'd never seen in my son's eyes before. Pure hatred. What are you talking about? Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m. You and Emma on speakerphone. Tragic accident. Elderly man loses footing on wet rocks. Marcus's hand moved towards something in his jacket pocket. I couldn't see what, but I didn't need to. I recorded everything, I continued, uploaded it to cloud storage, time-stamped, crystal clear audio. You're paranoid, old man. Am I? Then explain why we're hiking towards Soda Butte Creek instead of Specimen Ridge. Explain why you drugged my coffee. Explain why you've been asking about my will for 6 months. Marcus stepped closer. The concerned sun mask was completely gone now. You know what your problem is, Dad? You never knew when to quit. Always had to be the smart guy, the guy with all the answers. And your problem, Marcus, is that you underestimated me. That's when I heard it. The distant sound of an engine. A Park Service vehicle, right on schedule. Marcus heard it too. His eyes went wide. Expecting someone? I asked. The engine got closer. Headlights appeared through the trees. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. We're going to walk back to camp. You're going to pack your things. And you're going to drive home to Emma and think very carefully about your next move. You can't prove anything. 43 minutes of recorded conversation says otherwise. Plus GPS logs showing you led me to this exact spot. Plus the fact that Park Ranger Sarah Martinez is about to conduct a routine wellness check and find us in a very interesting location. The Park Service truck stopped 50 yards away. Door slammed. Footsteps approached. Morning, Sarah's voice echoed through the trees. Everything okay out here? Marcus looked at me. I looked at him. Your move, son. Everything's fine, officer, Marcus called out, his voice too bright, too forced. Just father and son enjoying the sunrise. Park Ranger Sarah Martinez emerged from the tree line with her maglite flashlight and official bearing. Mid-30s, confident stride, the kind of person who'd seen enough wilderness emergencies to spot trouble immediately. Bob Chen, she looked at me with professional concern. Got your message about the wellness check. Wanted to make sure you folks were managing okay out here. Appreciate you stopping by, Sarah. Marcus here was just showing me the local wildlife trails. Wildlife trails? Sarah's eyebrows went up. Sir, you're about 200 yards from a known grizzly feeding area. This isn't really a safe zone for recreational hiking, especially pre-dawn. I watched Marcus's face drain of color. His perfect murder location was apparently a genuinely dangerous spot. We were just heading back to camp, Marcus said quickly. Good call. I'll escort you folks back. Make sure you get there safely. The three of us hiked back in uncomfortable silence. Marcus kept shooting glances at me, probably wondering how much I'd revealed to Sarah. The answer was nothing. Yet. Back at camp, Sarah checked our setup with practiced efficiency. Nice site choice. You've got good visibility to the road from here. Smart camping. My son picked the location, I said meaningfully. Well, your son chose well for safety. Close enough to get help if needed, far enough for privacy. After Sarah left, Marcus exploded. What the hell was that about? Wellness check? What did you tell her? Nothing. Yet. Yet? I pulled out my phone. Marcus, sit down. We need to talk. I'm not sitting anywhere. I'm packing up. This camping trip is over. The camping trip ended the moment you tried to lead me to Soda Butte Creek, but our conversation is just beginning. I opened my Wells Fargo mobile app, the one I'd been using since Marcus started bleeding my accounts dry. Let's review your recent financial activities, shall we? The screen showed my business checking account. Balance, $847,093.15. See this number? Yesterday morning it was $873,412. Know what changed? Marcus said nothing. Security hold placed on external transfers. Effective Wednesday at noon. Your access to my money? Terminated. I scrolled through the transfer history. Every payment to Marcus highlighted in red. March 15th, $8,200. Medical emergency. Except Emma posted Instagram photos from a spa weekend that same day. Dad, March 22nd, $6,000. Specialist appointment. Funny thing about specialists, they usually send bills directly to insurance, but I never saw any insurance claims. I kept scrolling. April 3rd, $4,000 for car repairs. Except your BMW's still under warranty. April 19th, $7,000 for rent emergency. But your lease payments come out automatically, and they're only $1,200 a month. You've been spying on me? I've been paying attention. There's a difference. I pulled up my banking app's wire transfer log. Every transaction documented with timestamps, amounts, and Marcus's own written justifications. 18 months, 47 separate transfers, $427,000 total, And not once did you actually need the money for what you claimed. Marcus's hands were shaking now. That money was mine anyway. You're going to leave it to me eventually. Was going to. Past tense. I opened my email app, found the message from David Kim, timestamped Wednesday at 11:47 p.m. New will executed Wednesday night. Want to know who inherits my business now? You can't do this. I can. I did. 60% goes to the National Park Service for wilderness preservation, 20% to the local Veterans Hospital, 20% split between your cousins Janet and Michael, the ones who actually check on me occasionally. What about me? You get exactly what you've earned. 0. I watched my son process this information, watched him realize that murdering me wouldn't solve his financial problems, would actually make them worse, since dead people can't change their wills back. The BMW lease you can't afford? Due next month. The credit card payments you've been covering with my money? Also due. That mortgage on the house you bought for investment purposes but actually live in? Guess what's due? Marcus sat down heavily on a log. Dad, I made mistakes. Mistakes? You mean like planning to kill me for money you already spent? I never... Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m. Old man's actually excited about it. Keeps talking about father-son bonding. Your words, Marcus, recorded on my phone. Would you like to hear the playback? I held up my iPhone. Marcus stared at it like it was a loaded weapon. Here's what's interesting about modern technology. Everything gets backed up automatically. Cloud storage, multiple servers, time-stamped, and geolocated. Even if something happened to me on this camping trip, the evidence would still exist. What do you want? What do I want? I stood up, all 5'10" of me in steel-toed work boots and a tool belt. I want my son back, the one who used to help me fix things, the one who said please and thank you, and didn't plot my murder for inheritance money. I can change. Prove it. I walked to my tent and pulled out a manila folder. Inside, printed bank statements, the recorded conversation transcript, photographs of Emma's social media posts time-stamped with her spending sprees, and a detailed financial analysis David Kim had prepared. Every lie documented, every theft recorded, every manipulation catalogued. Marcus stared at the evidence of his own betrayal. What happens now depends entirely on your next choices. Because, son or not, I will not let you destroy what I spent 30 years building. The morning sun was finally rising over Lamar Valley. Time for illumination, in more ways than one. Marcus stood up fast. Too fast. The camp chair toppled backward. You think you're so smart, don't you? His voice had changed completely. Gone was any pretense of the loving son, sitting there with your files and your recordings like some kind of detective. I think I'm prepared. Prepared? He stepped closer. You're a lonely old man who's lost his mind. Who's going to believe any of this? That I tried to kill you? That's insane. The audio recording disagrees. Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. Audio can be faked, edited, taken out of context. You think a judge is going to convict me based on some paranoid old man's phone recordings? He was circling now, like he was looking for an advantage, an opening. Besides, he continued, who says that recording will ever make it to a courtroom? Meaning accidents still happen, Dad, even in broad daylight, even when park rangers are around. I stayed seated, kept my voice calm. Go ahead. What? Make your move. Show me what kind of man you really are. Marcus stopped pacing. What are you talking about? You want to hurt me? Here's your chance. No cliffs, no grizzly bears, no elaborate staging. Just you and your 62-year-old father, man to man. I don't want to hurt you. Liar. I stood up slowly. You've been hurting me for 18 months. Stealing from me, lying to me, treating me like your personal bank account, planning my death. That's not... Now you're angry because the money train stopped. Because I figured out your game. Because for once in your entitled life, there are consequences. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Shut up. Make me. We stared at each other across 10 feet of campsite. Father and son, prey and predator. Except the roles had reversed, and Marcus was just figuring that out. You know what I see when I look at you? I said quietly. I see your mother's worst fear. Don't you dare. She used to worry that we'd spoiled you, that we'd given you too much, too easily, that you'd never learn to work for anything. Stop. She was right. We created a monster who thinks he deserves other people's sacrifices. Marcus lunged. I sidestepped. Construction work keeps you limber, even at 62. He stumbled past me, caught himself on the picnic table. 34 years old and you still throw tantrums when you don't get your way. He spun around, swinging wild. I caught his wrist with my left hand. 40 years of gripping hammers and power tools gives you a strong grip. Let go. No. Listen to me very carefully, son. You have two choices. Walk away now, drive home to Emma, and figure out how to pay your own bills like an adult. Or keep escalating this situation and find out what happens when you threaten a man who has nothing left to lose. You're bluffing. I squeezed his wrist harder. Am I? You plan to kill me for money. I have evidence of that plan. Self-defense laws are very generous when someone threatens your life. Marcus tried to pull away. Couldn't. Plus, we're in the middle of nowhere. No witnesses except the wildlife. Accidents happen all the time in national parks. His eyes went wide. You wouldn't. I spent 30 years building something from nothing. Survived recessions, difficult clients, workplace accidents, losing your mother. You think I'm afraid of one spoiled brat who's never worked an honest day in his life? I released his wrist. He stepped back, rubbing it. Choose, Marcus. Walk away with your dignity intact, or find out what your old man learned during 3 decades in construction about dealing with people who threaten what's mine. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Not the tired widower he'd been manipulating, the man who'd built a multi-million-dollar business with his own hands. This isn't over, he said. Yes, I replied calmly. It is. Marcus drove away at 8:30 a.m., tires spinning on gravel, dust cloud lingering like his anger. I packed up camp methodically. 30 years in construction teaches you to clean up your work sites properly. By 10 a.m., campsite 4A looked like nobody had ever been there, except for the evidence I'd documented. GPS logs, timestamp photos, audio recordings, all uploaded to cloud storage with Marcus's license plate clearly visible in several shots. The drive back to Denver took 6 hours. I spent them thinking about damage control, because Marcus wouldn't go quietly. Entitled people never do. Sure enough, my phone started buzzing at 2 p.m. Text messages from family members I hadn't heard from in months. From my sister Janet. Marcus called, says you're having mental health issues. Are you okay? From my nephew Michael. Uncle Bob, Marcus thinks you need professional help. Should we be worried? From Emma's mother Patricia. Bob, Emma's very concerned about your recent behavior. Maybe it's time to consider assisted living. I pulled over at a rest stop near Fort Collins and called Janet back. Marcus says you accused him of trying to steal money, she said without preamble. Not accused. Documented. $427,000 over 18 months. That's impossible. Bank statements don't lie. Would you like me to email them to you? Long pause. Bob, are you sure you're thinking clearly? Since Linda died, I've been what? Grieving? Vulnerable? Easy to manipulate? I didn't say that. Marcus did. He's calling everyone, claiming I'm senile, setting up a narrative where anything I say about his behavior gets dismissed as dementia. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious situation. Janet, when's the last time Marcus visited you without needing money? Another pause. Longer this time. Or Michael, when's the last time Marcus called either of your kids just to chat? Just to check in? Well, but he's called both of you today, hasn't he? Within hours of our confrontation, painting himself as the concerned son dealing with his unstable father. Bob, he's lying, Janet, and I can prove it. I spent the next hour on the phone with family members, sent them selected bank statements. Not the full evidence file, not yet, but enough to establish a pattern. By evening, the narrative was shifting. My nephew Michael called back at 7 p.m. Uncle Bob, I looked at those bank statements. $8,000 a month? For what? Ask Marcus. He had very creative explanations for every transfer. I tried. He hung up on me. Interesting. There's something else. I called Emma's mom, Patricia. Asked her about these medical emergencies Marcus kept mentioning. And? Patricia says Emma hasn't seen a doctor in 2 years. Says she's the healthiest person she knows. All those medical bills Marcus claimed, they don't exist. The truth was spreading. Marcus's web of lies was unraveling. At 9 p.m., Emma called directly. Bob, we need to talk. Do we? Marcus is upset. He's been drinking since he got home, saying crazy things about you having him arrested. Are they crazy things if they're true? What's that supposed to mean? It means your husband planned to kill me for inheritance money, and I have 43 minutes of audio proving it. That's ridiculous. Tuesday night, 11:47 p.m. You asked if I'd brought my will camping. You discussed making my death look like an accident. You planned how to spend my money before I was even dead. Silence. Emma? Still there? Bob, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Marcus led me to a grizzly feeding area at 5 a.m. and told me to meet the bears. The only misunderstanding was his assumption that I'd be helpless. You're taking things out of context. Context? The context where my son abandons me in the wilderness after drugging my coffee and leading me to an isolated location he'd scouted for maximum danger? Marcus would never. Emma, I have GPS logs showing he researched that exact spot 3 weeks ago. I have his search history from the computer he borrowed. Yellowstone grizzly attacks. Hiking accident statistics. How long before rangers find missing persons? Oh God. Now you're calling family members trying to discredit me, making this about my mental health instead of Marcus's criminal behavior. What do you want from us? I want you to disappear from my life. Both of you. Permanently. And if we don't, then 43 minutes of recorded murder conspiracy gets turned over to the FBI. Click. Dial tone. By 10 p.m., my phone had stopped buzzing. The counter-narrative was dead in the water. Friday morning, I went to work, not because I had to, because I needed normal. Needed to sit in my office at Chen Construction and think through everything that had happened. My secretary, Maria, brought coffee at 8:30. How was the camping trip? Educational. Good educational or bad educational? The kind that changes everything. I spent the morning organizing evidence, creating what my attorney, David Kim, would later call the most thoroughly documented family betrayal case he'd ever seen. File 1. Financial crimes. $427,000 in fraudulent transfers. Each one documented with Marcus's written justification, bank timestamps, and corresponding social media posts, proving the money wasn't used as claimed. The medical emergency fund. Emma's Instagram showed spa weekends, designer shopping, and restaurant bills. Total actual medical expenses, 0. The rent emergency fund. Their lease payments were automatic and never missed. The emergency money went to BMW payments and credit card debt. The car repair fund. Service records showed their BMW had been to the dealership exactly once, for a routine oil change covered under warranty. File 2. The murder conspiracy. 43 minutes of crystal clear audio. Marcus and Emma discussing my death like a business transaction. I'd had the recording professionally enhanced by a forensic audio company in Boulder. Cost me $1,500, worth every penny. You could hear Emma's coffee cup clinking against her saucer. You could hear Marcus's chair creaking when he leaned forward to discuss logistics. What if he fights back? Come on, he's 62, weighs 160 soaking wet, and hasn't done anything physical since Mom died. The audio expert provided a written analysis. No evidence of editing, splicing, or digital manipulation. Original recording captured on iPhone 14 using standard voice memo application. Background ambient sound consistent throughout. Voice patterns match provided reference samples. File 3. Premeditation evidence. Marcus's computer search history pulled from our shared family cloud storage account. September 2nd. Yellowstone National Park grizzly bear attacks. September 3rd. Lamar Valley camping sites, remote areas. September 5th. How long missing person search Yellowstone? September 8th. Inheritance law, Colorado no will. September 10th. Life insurance beneficiary, automatic spouse children. September 12th. Accidental death wilderness statistics. 14 different searches over 10 days. A methodical research project about killing me and getting away with it. File 4. Timeline and GPS evidence. My phone's location data showed Marcus had visited Lamar Valley twice in August. Scouting trips he'd never mentioned. The Garmin GPS logs from our camping trip traced our exact route to Soda Butte Creek, the same route he'd practiced during his secret reconnaissance missions. File 5. Character witnesses. I'd called 12 people who'd interacted with Marcus over the past 2 years. Contractors, suppliers, family friends, even his former employer. The pattern was consistent. Marcus presented himself as successful and generous, but always had excuses for not paying bills. Always had emergencies requiring immediate cash. Always had elaborate explanations for why his problems were someone else's fault. My concrete supplier, Jim Rodriguez. Marcus ordered $8,000 worth of materials for a job last year. Promised payment in 30 days. 6 months later, still hasn't paid. Claims there were quality issues, but the materials were perfect. My nephew's wife, Sarah. Marcus borrowed $500 for Emma's birthday dinner. That was 14 months ago. Every time we see him, he has a new excuse for why he can't pay us back. Emma's former coworker, Beth. Emma quit her job 2 years ago, said Marcus was making so much money she didn't need to work. But she was always asking to borrow 20 here, 50 there. Said Marcus was between contracts. The moral accounting was devastating. Marcus had stolen from me, $427,000. Marcus had stolen from others, $23,400, documented. Marcus had contributed to family. Marcus had expressed gratitude. Never Marcus had planned my murder. 43 minutes of audio evidence. By contrast, I had given Marcus $427,000 plus childhood support, college tuition, wedding expenses. I had asked for repayment. Never. I had investigated his lies. Only after discovering murder plot, I had involved authorities. Not yet, giving him one final chance. At 2 p.m., David Kim arrived at my office. "Bob, I've reviewed everything you sent me. This is, He shook his head. "I've been practicing estate law for 28 years. I've seen families fight over money before. But premeditated murder, that's criminal court territory. I know. You understand that once we turn this over to law enforcement, there's no going back? Marcus will be arrested. Emma, too, as an accomplice. Their lives will be destroyed." Their lives, or their ability to destroy other people's lives? That's one way to look at it. It's the only way to look at it, David. They crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. What if they disappear? Leave town? Leave you alone? Then someone else becomes their victim. Another trusting parent. Another family member with assets. So what do you want to do? I want justice. Real justice. The kind that prevents them from ever doing this again. Saturday morning, Marcus made his fatal mistake. He came to my house. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard his BMW pull into the driveway. Emma was with him. Through the garage window, I watched them argue in the car for 5 minutes before getting out. Marcus looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled clothes, the kind of desperate appearance that comes from 3 days of drinking and scheming. Emma looked worse, hollow-eyed, nervous, constantly checking her phone like she was expecting bad news. They walked to my front door. Marcus pounded on it with his fist. "Dad, open up! We need to talk!" I stayed in the garage. Let them knock. "I know you're in there. Your truck's here." More pounding. "Fine," Marcus shouted. We'll wait all damn day." That's when I made my call. "Sarah, Bob Chen, remember that evidence I mentioned? I need you and a witness to come to my house. Now." Park Ranger Sarah Martinez arrived 20 minutes later. She brought Jefferson County Sheriff's Deputy Mike Torres and a woman I didn't recognize, Detective Lisa Chang from the Economic Crimes Unit. Perfect timing. Marcus and Emma were sitting on my front porch, looking like exactly what they were, desperate people planning something stupid. I opened the garage door and walked out to meet the officers. "Gentlemen, detective, thank you for coming." "Dad," Marcus jumped up. What the hell is this?" "This is accountability, son." Detective Chang stepped forward. "Mr. Chen, you called about financial crimes and threats against your life?" "I did." I handed her the evidence folder. "Everything's documented." Marcus's face went white. "Dad, don't do this. We can work something out." "We had 18 months to work something out. You chose murder instead." "That's not what happened." Detective Chang was flipping through bank statements. "Mr. Marcus Chen, I need you to stay right there while I review these documents." "This is insane," Emma spoke for the first time. "Bob's having some kind of breakdown. He's making up stories." "Ma'am, are you Emma Chen?" "Yes, but you're mentioned in these audio recordings. I'll need to speak with you as well." That's when Marcus snapped. "You vindictive old bastard!" He lunged toward me. Deputy Torres stepped between us, hand on his weapon. "Sir, step back, now." He's destroying my life over money. Money I would have inherited anyway. Would have? Detective Chang looked up from the files. Past tense? What changed? Marcus realized his mistake too late. I mean, will inherit. Eventually. According to this new will dated September 13th, you inherit nothing. $0. So how exactly were you expecting this inheritance? The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Emma tried to salvage the situation. Marcus misspoke. He's upset. His father's been acting erratically since his wife died. Mrs. Chen, I need you to be very careful with your next words. Making false statements to police during an investigation is a felony. I pulled out my iPhone. Detective, would you like to hear the recording where they discuss making my death look like an accident? Dad, no! Marcus's voice cracked. Please. September 17th, 11:47 p.m. Duration 43 minutes. Professionally enhanced audio with forensic authentication. Detective Chang nodded to Deputy Torres, who began reading Marcus's rights. You have the right to remain silent. This is bullshit, Marcus was shouting now. He's a manipulative old man who can't stand that I figured out his game. What game? Detective Chang asked. The control game, the money game, making me beg for scraps while he sits on millions. So you decided to kill him for it? I never. Marcus stopped. Too late. Mr. Chen, you just admitted to planning murder for financial gain. That's premeditation. Emma started crying. Marcus, shut up. Stop talking. Ma'am, are you advising your husband to obstruct justice? I'm advising him to call a lawyer. Smart advice. Detective Chang turned to me. Mr. Chen, can you play that audio recording? I connected my phone to the small Bluetooth speaker I'd brought from the garage. The sound quality was crystal clear. Marcus's recorded voice. Old man's actually excited about it. Keeps talking about father-son bonding. It's pathetic. Emma's recorded voice. What if he fights back? Marcus's recorded voice. Come on. He's 62, weighs 160 soaking wet, and hasn't done anything physical since Mom died. Plus, I'll make sure he's tired from the hike. Present day, Marcus. Stop it. Stop playing that. But I didn't stop. Neither did Detective Chang. Emma's recorded voice. And the business? Marcus's recorded voice. Automatically goes to me as sole heir. $2.3 million plus the house plus his retirement accounts. We'll be set for life. Enough. Marcus charged toward my phone. Deputy Torres tackled him to the ground. Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, financial elder abuse, and fraud. The handcuffs clicked shut. Emma collapsed onto my porch steps, sobbing. We never meant for it to go this far. We just needed money. We're so far in debt. Ma'am, anything you say can and will be used against you in court. But we never actually hurt him. We just talked about it. Detective Chang looked at her with something that might have been pity. Mrs. Chen, conspiracy to commit murder doesn't require completion of the crime. Planning it is enough. They loaded Marcus into the patrol car. He looked at me through the window with pure hatred. You did this. He screamed. You destroyed your own family. No, son. You did that when you decided I was worth more dead than alive. Emma was arrested 5 minutes later. Accessory to conspiracy, financial fraud, and a half-dozen other charges, Detective Chang rattled off while Emma wept. After the police cars left, I stood in my driveway for a long time. Neighbors were watching from windows and doorways. The Chen family drama was now public record. Sarah Martinez stayed behind. Bob, are you okay? I'm something. Not sure okay is the word. What you did took courage. A lot of parents would have just cut contact and hoped for the best. Cutting contact doesn't stop predators. It just gives them new hunting grounds. You probably saved some other family from going through this. Maybe. Or maybe I just destroyed what was left of my own family to satisfy my need for justice. The recording, Sarah said. How long have you been planning this? Since Tuesday night, when I heard them plotting my death. Everything after that was just gathering evidence and waiting for them to make their move. And if they'd just stayed away, never come to your house today, then they'd be free to find their next victim. At least now there's a paper trail. Other people can be warned. Sarah nodded. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Ask me again in a year, when I'm sitting in this empty house, knowing my son is in prison because I put him there. Your son put himself there. You just documented the journey. Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd done the only thing possible when someone you love betrays everything you thought you knew about them. But standing in my driveway, watching the neighbors whisper and point, I wondered if justice was worth the price. Then I remembered Marcus's voice. We'll be set for life. Set for life on my corpse. Yeah, justice was worth it. 3 months later, the verdicts came down, Marcus. Guilty on all counts. Conspiracy to commit murder in the first degree. Elder financial abuse, fraud. 15 years to life. Eligible for parole in 12. Emma. Guilty of accessory charges. Financial fraud. Conspiracy. 7 years, eligible for parole in 5. Their house was seized to pay restitution. The BMW repossessed. Emma's designer clothes and jewelry sold at auction. They recovered exactly $127,000 of the $427,000 they'd stolen from me. The rest had been spent on their lifestyle of borrowed luxury. I attended every day of the trial, sat in the front row, watched my son testify that he'd never intended to actually kill me, just scare me into giving him his inheritance early. The jury didn't buy it. Neither did I. After sentencing, Marcus looked at me one last time. No hatred now, just emptiness. Was it worth it, Dad? Destroying your own son? Ask me again in 15 years. That was 6 months ago. Today I'm sitting in my office at Chen Construction, looking at architectural plans for a new community center. The contract is worth $1.2 million. The down payment alone would have covered Marcus's debts. He could have just asked, could have admitted his problems, requested help, accepted responsibility. Instead, he chose murder. My phone buzzes. Text from my nephew Michael. Uncle Bob, Sarah's graduating med school next month. Want to come to the ceremony? Sarah, Michael's daughter, 26 years old, works 2 jobs, putting herself through school. Never asked me for money, always sends thank you cards when I remember her birthday. Family isn't about blood, it's about character. Absolutely, I text back. Proud of her. The intercom crackles. Bob, there's a young man here about the apprenticeship program. Send him in. Maybe I'll find someone worth teaching, someone who understands that building something takes time, patience, and respect for the tools. Someone who knows that shortcuts lead to collapse. Outside my window, Denver stretches toward the mountains. A city built by people who understood that foundations matter. That integrity isn't negotiable. That some lines once crossed can never be uncrossed. I have work to do, boundaries to maintain, a legacy to protect.